The Chicago Bulls, they lost to the Knicks. However, they beat the Knicks just 2 days prior to that. And as of right now, they're sitting at 5-1. How are we feeling about the Chicago Bulls? I know nobody, not even the residents in Chicago, maybe not even the owners of the Bulls, thought that they were going to get off to a start this hot and look this good and potentially go 6-0. Fellas, how are we feeling about Chicago right now?
I'm feeling good about them, to be honest with you, Ron, particularly at their point guard spot. I love what they got going on with Josh Giddy. They lead in the league in assists. That's largely due to Josh Giddy being the playmaker that he is, getting downhill, attracting the defense the way he's attracting the defense. I love that about him. I talked to you not too long ago about how important it was in terms of a guard being able to rebound, especially if you got a behemoth down low that your big man is dealing with. And the fact that Josh Giddy gets on the glass the way he does, I mean, I think he saves them a lot of possessions. He stops a lot of possessions for them as a rebounder. This kid, Matas, has looked nothing short of fantastic. Just as a young player, I didn't realize that he was that good as a one-on-one player. And I think that really helps them. Now, with that being said, I was not on the Vooch train because I feel like I was more on the youth movement with the Chicago Bulls because I see what they're doing with Josh Giddy at 22 years old, with Matas at 20 years old. They got a bunch of kids over there. This kid Williams actually is playing better than what anticipated. But I like what I'm seeing with this Bulls team. The fact that they play defense the way that they play defense, the way that they rebound, and the fact that Josh Giddy speeds them up and makes them play fast and as efficient as he is as a distributor, this team is a lot better than what I thought they were. I thought it was just the youth movement, and this team could possibly be a playing team, but I think they're a lot better than that.
I definitely didn't think the Bulls were going to start out 5-0. But with that being said, y'all, it was still just like first 5 and 6 games for some teams in these first 2 weeks of the season, and I just don't want us to get ahead of ourselves. I still believe that the teams that we believe are going to be the top teams in the West are still going to be the top teams in the West. The teams we believe are going to be the top teams in the East are still going to be the top teams in the East when all the dust settles. When all the dust settles, I still believe the top teams are the top teams. That doesn't mean that we can't talk about like amazing starts for the Bulls, amazing starts for the Spurs. Even we spoke about this before, even before the season started. That maybe we were a little hard on the Sixers. So we've already established that. But shout out to the Bulls though. Like Matas Buzelis is incredible. I mean, we all know Josh Giddy's a hooper. I don't think anybody should be shocked. I'm excited to watch the Bulls.
Ox, how often do teams win 5 in a row? Like I'd like to think that that's a big deal. And moving forward, like we can build on this. Do I expect them to continuously win 5 games in a row throughout the course of the season? No, because at that pace, you're looking at a 60-win Bulls team. I don't think they're that good. No, I'm not saying that. But I do think that the stuff that they're doing to get them to 5 wins, and even though they jumped out as early as they did, I think that that's something that they can build on.
Absolutely. I think they can build on it. Without a doubt. I think winning, like you said, 5-game win streak at any point in the season, that's good. It's great. So I'm not trying to knock them for that chill. I just don't believe that we're looking at the Chicago Bulls in the Eastern Conference Finals or something like that. I don't think we're looking at the Chicago Bulls winning the, that's all I'm saying. I think that the top teams are still the top teams. The Knicks, I believe the Knicks are a better basketball team than the Chicago Bulls. So they were supposed to win last night.
Shout out Josh Giddy and Ayo Dosunmu. They're playing really well, and I'm excited to see. I can't remember who it was, but we were having Billy Donovan should be fire talks. What, in the summer?
Yes.
I can't remember who that was or who initiated.
When he was getting to the Hall of Fame.
It was a couple
right after getting inducted to the Hall of Fame.
Yeah. I think, I've maintained where I stood. I just think that obviously early season for me is just like who's made the improvements in the offseason, who's shown up, who's been committed to start fast. I think that like the Bulls are just they're the exemplary team that's like super overperforming expectations right now. But they're a really good basketball team. Like they play together, they play connected. If you just kind of watch their play style, they share the ball really well. If you've been paying attention to Josh Giddy, he's been playing well for really all the full of 2025. Really, like I said, since February or so, man, he's just been a different player. He's playing confident. The team's playing confident. And I think everybody's just kind of finding their rhythm and figuring out how to play basketball together. So just they're super impressive, and I think that the Bulls should be taken seriously the same way I think the Bucks should be taken seriously. I think if you're starting off well, you should definitely get credit for what you're doing.
Mars, I'd like for you to talk about Josh Giddy a little bit because number
well,
one,
we could do that.
When we talk about Josh Giddy, Mars, the first thing I want to ask you, like, what were your biggest issues with him in Oklahoma City? Like, refresh my memory on your issues with him in Oklahoma City.
He didn't fit. He was a bad defender who needs the ball in his hands, and he wasn't going to get the ball in his hands next to the best player in the world, in OKC's estimation. Not one of the 5 best players on the planet. He just wasn't going to get the ball, and he didn't fit. And they were actively worse with him on the floor because they were trying to shoehorn him into a lineup that was predicated on defense and floor spacing, and he provided neither one of those things. And then they replaced him with Alex Caruso, who provided both of those things, especially the defense at an elite level. And I would argue it made them champions, or at least assisted heavily in making them champions. So that was my issue with Josh Giddy in Oklahoma City.
Now, with that, because he didn't fit, did that make you think he was a worse player, or it just didn't fit with him in Oklahoma City?
Worse player than what?
Well, worst player, like what you're saying right now with Josh Giddy with the Bulls, in a system where it actually works for him, where they're playing the way that's conducive more to his game. When he was in Oklahoma City, to your point, he needed the ball in his hands. We already got a guy who's got that. We need a defender, and they ended up replacing him with that. Well, now he's playing somewhere where his game is more conducive to what they're doing. Did that make him, in your estimation, when he was in Oklahoma City, seem to be more of a worse player than what he is now?
Well, he was worse than he is now. He's improved since he's got to Chicago. He shoots the ball way better. He's more decisive on his drives. His handles got tighter. He's just a better player than he was in Chicago. Than he was in OKC. Now, the foundations of who he is pushing the tempo, getting the ball off the glass, being a really good passer. All of those things were in OKC. I think I called him one of the best passers in the league when he was in OKC.
You did.
So those things are still there. The foundations were there. But he's also just improved immensely, and I think he deserves a lot of credit for that. Shooting the ball with a lot of confidence. I think he's at like 40% on the season thus far. He closed the year last year shooting really well from 3. This isn't like a this season thing with Chicago. They like March and April of last year, they really like took a step. You can kind of like line it up with when Zach LaVine got traded. From that moment on, they kind of pushed on and became like a really good team, playing up tempo, the ball in Josh Giddey's hands. Kobe White also ascending, which is what makes what they're doing right now more impressive because they haven't had Kobe White. Patrick Williams has looked really good, but like on the Josh Giddey perspective, it's a mix of he's improved a lot and his skill set is being maximized in Chicago. And you get both of those things in conjunction, and you get the Josh Giddey that looks like a really good player, but he's always been able to rebound the ball. He was doing that in OKC. He's always been able to pass the ball. He was doing that in OKC. He's always been comfortable trying to get downhill. He's just now got better at it. So, like, I want to give Josh Giddey credit for his improvement, but I'm also not like I'm seeing people retroactively say like the Thunder shouldn't have traded him or the Bulls won the trade or whatever the case may be. Like, this probably just gonna be a win-win trade. Like, if the Bulls get someone in Josh Giddey who can be their franchise point guard, and the Thunder get a championship, there you go, win-win trade. Not everyone has to lose. And I think that's probably what this is setting up to be. I just want to see this team when Kobe White's back. I want to see how he fits into things because that's another bad defender you kind of got to fit in. But everything else, I've loved Matas Buzelis this season. I've really liked what Trey Jones has brought. Patrick Williams is someone who I thought his career was on the outskirts of being over, but he's looked really good to start the year. They've just got good minutes from pretty much everyone. And that's rare for a team as young as the Bulls are. Well, they're not like young, but like they're not majorly experienced.
There's a youth movement over there, sure.
Yeah. So do I think this is sustainable? No, I don't think they're going to be a top. Where are they in the East right now? Number 1?
2.
Joint first.
Well,
2.
tied for number 1.
Yeah, I don't think that's sustainable, but do I think that they can still be in the play-in? Yes. Do I think that they can be a solid team, a tough team to beat on any given night? Yes. But I don't think they're this good. Which I don't
Fox,
think
that's where my issue was.
They have 7 people that are shooting 40% from the 3-point line, and it's not arguably their best shooter, Kevin Huerter. He's not even in that group. So you got Josh Giddey shooting 40%, Matas Buzelis shooting 41%.
Ain't been a shooter in 2 years, but okay.
Patrick Williams shooting 44%.
Try 3, Mars.
Ayo shooting 47%. Dallin Terry shooting 50%. Nikola Vucevic shooting 53%, and Trey Jones shooting 60%. I don't know how sustainable that is, but They knocking them down.
Well,
Fellas,
on what type of volume though? If it's if it's a respectable volume or maybe not
Matzes is
too
shooting 4.8 attempts, 41%. Giddy shooting 4.5 on 41%. Vooch is shooting 4.3 attempts and shooting 53.8. Kevin Herter is shooting 4.3, 30%. Ayo Dosunmu is shooting 4.2, 47.6%. Patrick Williams 4.2, 44%. So based on these numbers and based on the way NBA is typically work, that is a gross gross overshooting from across.
Ox, you always talk. But Ox, you always talk about basketball players and playing basketball. And I think that with this Bulls team, I think Josh Giddey allows them to play basketball. Like that thing becomes a hot potato. It doesn't really stick a lot to guys' hands, especially when they get in the half court. I've watched Josh Giddey a couple of different times where the ball was moving and he already saw maybe Patrick Williams in the corner or he saw Dosunmu in the corner. I see why you love him, by the way, Swiper, because he does all the necessary things to stay on the floor.
$7 million a year expiring deal, by the way.
Yeah, I definitely see why you love him. But the thing that I was concerned with because Mars really brought up an interesting point. Like when you see guys that are in systems that aren't really conducive to their game, what it ultimately makes them look like is they look like they can't play. And I think that's what was happening with Josh Giddey. Josh Giddey was starting to look like a guy who was a bust. Josh Giddey was starting to look like a guy who maybe his game isn't conducive with the NBA, when in reality, just that system didn't fit. I mean, I knew that they had their franchise point guard in Chicago when they ended up trading for him with Alex Caruso. I thought it was a win-win for both teams. And I feel like this current situation with Josh Giddey, it's a great situation for him. And I told you this before, Ox, and I'm standing on it. That $25 million that they got him on the books for, that shit gonna be outdated in a year.
Yeah, for sure.
It's outdated right now, Chill. Right now.
The thing with Josh, it was never that. I think we all knew we knew Josh was a baller when he was playing in Illawarra, when he was down there. We knew Josh was cold then. He was still cold when he was playing with OKC. It's just like to Mars' point when we were talking about it. It just was a bad fit with him and Shai. You know what I'm saying? Shai's obviously, we all know he's the better basketball player. He needs the ball. You know what I'm saying? Josh can't be as effective off the ball at that point. He needed the ball as well. And it was just like we all been saying. It was a win-win trade, and they needed to happen. I think, obviously, I think some of the pushback, or we can call it hate or whatever, for Josh Giddey, a lot of it had to do with that off-court situation. But we all know Josh was a really talented basketball player.
I want to know how you feel about the Bulls. Are they a contender or are they just merely a con?
Definitely a con. They're not continuing to win anything this season, but they've gotten off to a great start, so shout out to them. Josh Giddey's playing very good basketball right now, hitting 40+% of his threes. I don't think that's sustainable. I think you just referenced that, 6 of their players on the roster are shooting 40+% from three.
Actually.
7. And then also heard Mars in another episode reference the fact that teams are shooting 26% from three against them. But I did see the Knicks game and when I was watching, the Knicks were shooting like 57% from three for a portion of that game against them. So that number definitely creeped back up.
It's gone up to 30% or 33.
You said what?
Something like that. It's gone up to like 30 or 33% now because the Knicks shot 40% in both their games against them.
Yes. So, and the Knicks beat them, if I'm not mistaken, as well. So, they've gone out to a good start, but we've seen mediocre to even bad teams get off to very hot starts early on in the season. So, I'm definitely not looking at Chicago as any kind of contender in the Eastern Conference this year. But I do agree they definitely have their point guard of the future in Josh Giddey. He's been a very good player. But outside of that, I'm not really taking this Chicago team too seriously.
Well, you got to ask yourself what exactly a contender is. Are you a championship contender? Are you a playoff contender? What kind of contender are we talking about here? Because I don't think that there's anybody up here that thinks the Bulls can win the NBA championship. I don't think there's anybody up here. Relax, Mars. I don't think there's anybody up here that thinks that. I think every last one of us up here, if we saw the Bulls in the Eastern Conference Championship, would be like, I told you. I don't think that there's anybody up here that thinks.
Well, it has to be championship contender. You know sure. What it is with basketball talk. When it comes to hoop talk, if you make the playoffs and you lose in the first round, you're a weak ass team. You know how it goes. So we wouldn't
that's
be up
depending
here.
on team. Alex, I wouldn't say that for every team.
But you know how it goes. Just in typical, and I'm not saying about each one of you individually. I'm just saying typically in hoop talk, you know, if you lose in the first round, blow it up, you know. So it's like we're definitely talking about at least Eastern, at least conference finals contenders. You know what I'm saying? We at least have to be speaking about that, right? Like top 4, top 3, top 2.
I'm thinking about just them making the playoffs, like outright. I'm not thinking about them playing themselves into the playoffs. Are they a playoff contender when we get to April or when we get to late March? Are we looking at the Bulls as one of the 5-6 best teams in the Eastern Conference?
Chill. So you would say they're a con, Chill?
Yes. I in terms of a championship contender, yes, I think they're a con. In terms of a playoff contender, if they could keep playing defense the way that they play in defense, and if that ball could keep hopping the way it's hopping, I think they can make the playoffs outright.
I think they are a team that looks very good to start the year off, and then we will see what they look like by the end of the year. But I do not think they are a contender by a traditional definition.
I think that they're a playoff. I think they're looking right now like they're a playoff team. They're playing like they can make the playoffs, whether that's a 5-6, 7-8, you know, play-in spot, whatever. I think they'll probably land somewhere around that 6-7 seed though when it's all said and done. With that being said, if they land in that 6-7 seed, that might end up playing one of the top teams. I don't think they could beat them in the playoff series like the Knicks, Cleveland. You know, even when Orlando gets their stuff together, I don't think they'll be able to play with them either. So, nah, I don't think so, Ron. I'm gonna go ahead and respectfully call them a con, but I think they're a really good basketball team right now.
I don't think they're a con. I think the way we're phrasing this is just all in or all out, and I just don't think it has to be. But if you're making me have to choose between those two options, like then obviously con is the right answer. But I still don't think that's an accurate description of the Bulls. But of the two options, it is.
What would you say is the accurate description?
They're a decent team that started well, but no one was projecting them to be second round playoff contenders or whatever. And I don't think the Bulls are setting up their season to do that either. Like, it would be nice, but I don't think that was their goals going into the year. Oh, let's see if we can make a run in the East. Like, their goal was probably, let's see what we have with our young guys. Let's see what Matas looks like. Let's see how Josh Giddy looks. And let's try and be in the play-in because that's the Bulls' MO. Like, so I don't think they're cons because they've started the season well, even though we know it's not sustainable. And if it is sustainable, my bad. But, like, I don't think that makes them cons because that makes it seem like it's a negative if they inevitably fall back to earth. And I don't think it is. So, or that they're trying to deceive us, which I don't think they're trying to do. So